Good afternoon, sports fans, and we are standing on the famous bridge leading to St. Mary's College ground. And this event is taking place behind me. As you can see on the notice board here, National Intercol Nostalgia Fiesta. It is an annual event. It is a very exciting event. It is an event that brings all the Intercol champions together, and all the players who have never seen each other for quite a long while, they are here today. And with me is my fellow host, Riza Abasali. Riza, what's your take on this whole thing?
Well, thank you so much, Astel. What a magnificent day here on this Saturday. The National Fiesta, Intercol National Fiesta, taking place here today and honoring 5 great Olympic athletes. Astel, Wendell Motley, Ed Roberts, Ed Skinner, Bernard, and Lennox Yearwood. The halcyon days of athletics in Trinidad and Tobago.
I mean, you cannot have it any bigger than having these 5 guys in your lineup. But not to talk about these guys, because the day is a day that leads to football, where you have all the former players. And like just speaking with Ken Butcher a while ago, he reminisced us what this meant to the players when they came and they met each other during their younger days, during their playing days, where they had fierce rivalry. And today is a day of camaraderie, a day of fun, and a day of excitement. And notwithstanding that, they're going to continue to honor the players, to honor those who have set their mark on the local sporting landscape here. Riza.
Yes. Well, Astel, you couldn't have said it better. We are happy to be here on behalf of IETV's Sports Train, and we are really looking forward to a fantastic evening here down at St. Mary's College. We have here Mr. Kenneth Butcher, a Saints Hole boy from 1962 to 68, former national footballer and chairman of the Intercol Nostalgia Festival Company Limited. Ken, can you tell us about this organization quickly?
Yeah, well, we started some years ago. Initially, we had just Belmont and St. Mary's, the camaraderie over the years in Intercol. And we used to play a game every year, the Thursday after Carnival. Yeah. But as it grew bigger, we had to move it to the Saturday, and then we formed a company because it started to get large. We needed structure. As a result of that, we had a number of teams now asking to join, because all those guys coming from abroad, they would come down to watch the games, and they wanted to know how they could get involved. Yes. Based on that, now we set up a little policy in terms of you had to be the winner of an Intercol in order to come in. So all the teams here, we have 10 colleges, secondary schools that would have won Intercol in the past. Right. So they're now part of it. And it's just growing and growing. We have over 400 players here this afternoon with friends and family. As you could see, the game's going on. It is in 4 age groups. Right. And we're doing pretty well. We can't complain at all with what we have.
Yes. And tell us about this main event, this function to honor our Olympian athletes. Tell us how that came about.
Well, what happened is that a suggestion came to us that while these guys are alive, and normally some of them come back home, so we wrote them early, and as a result of that, all 5 of them are here. They came back, so we're honoring them. Then we have Osman Dongna as well, who is here. A name. Just now what happened is that, remember, he went to St. Augustine as the principal. He went from St. Mary's to thing, and he formed the Green Machine. Right. And it was just touching to see all the St. Augustine guys go back to meet Osman Dongna under the VIP tent, because he can't walk a great distance at this stage, but his mind is so sharp. When all the players came back, and so he could remember the names and things like that, And it's always difficult for a principal or a teacher to remember his students. They will remember him. But Ozzy was able to identify and recall stuff and things like that. He's such a beautiful person. Yeah. So we're happy to honor them. Somebody in the committee got a feedback from some of the schools, and we decided to start with the 4x4 guys who went to Jamaica and made a World Cup, another World Cup. It broke the record. Yes, and did extremely well on whatever it is. Right. So we have 5 of them here this evening that we'll be honoring. All of them are here. Excellent. We have Ozzy, and we're going to honor Gypsy because of the cultural underpinnings in the organization as well. Right. So what we're doing is that we're saying we don't want to wait until these guys die.
Correct. Yes.
We want to honor them while and they can still appreciate it. Right. Yeah. So that's what's going on right now. So for example, next year we will have, we will honor. So we're doing a priority listing now, and we will go through that so every year. Plus, what we're doing is that we're establishing a fund. We're establishing a fund especially for the welfare of the guys who might, as we get older, they might run into some problems health-wise or something like that. We have doctors, we have whatever it is as past students. So we want to look after the older guys as well, like me. So we have the younger guys just enjoying the thing, 3 age groups, but we're forming a over 65 for sure next year. So that because between 40, right now we have over 55, but between 55 and say 68, 69, that age group is, the disparity is too much. So we're forming a over 65 where we'll have more activities as well.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, Ken, thank you so much for joining us here.
Just to add, Ken, what is the feedback again from the younger ones? I mean, those who are not in that age bracket, but they are here playing, enjoying, and they're observing, and they are learning from you all, because somewhere along the line you'll have to pass on the baton.
Yeah.
So I mean, what the feedback you're getting from them?
They're extremely happy because the older guys are interacting with them, and you're getting to meet. I introduced some guys who came back home and things like that, who they only heard about. So they're now meeting them in the flesh for the first time. So the camaraderie and even in between the schools as well. Not only within your school, but it's now, like Clausel and these guys who you heard about, you see them in the flesh for the first time.
Okay. So Ken, thank you so much. I mean, for
Great, Ken. Thanks so much. We look forward to interviewing the Olympians.
Yeah, right, we'll be here shortly.
Great, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks again, Ken.
Right.
Nice seeing you again. It's always a pleasure.
Welcome home sports meeting to honor our Olympic team and a fitting tribute to our national heroes. The Prime Minister himself was there to greet them, and especially to see the men who kept off flag flying at the Tokyo Olympiad. Wendell Motley, silver medalist, and Edwin Skinner, Edwin Roberts, bronze medalist, and Kent Bernard. It was here at the Queen's Park Oval that these boys raced to victory in the early years. Ed Roberts, always a sprinter to be reckoned with and winner of an athletic scholarship, and Motley, a quarter-miler of class, now studying for a doctorate in economics.
Edwin Skinner, affectionately called Ed Skinner, grew up in the urban town of Port of Spain. As a child, Ed participated in all of the sporting disciplines of the primary schools he attended, Tranquility Elementary and St. Crispin's, where his aunt taught. Ed's running ability was spotted very early by his parents Harold and Pearl Skinner, who bought their son a pair of running shoes in which he excelled. Ed was dominant both at the primary and secondary school levels, where he attended Queen's Royal College. But while Ed was raising eyebrows whenever he ran, there was another running dynamo on the scene by the name of Wendell Motley. Later in 1964, the two would be part of this country's 4x400 meters relay squad, who brought home the bronze medal from the Tokyo Olympic Games. Ed was the lead-off man, while Motley was on the anchor leg. The other two were Ken Bernard on the second and Edwin Roberts on the third. It must be added, Ed Skinner was a finalist at the 400 meters individual event at the same games where Motley picked up the silver medal. Ed Skinner went on to have a brilliant running career on the U.S. circuit for Maryland State College on a full scholarship and later graduated with honors. It was there Ed met and competed against the best, including his teammates from the Tokyo Olympic Games, Ken Bernard and Edwin Roberts. Ed Skinner's career was plagued by a leg injury, which prevented him from a place onto the record-breaking 400 meters relay squad at the 1966 Commonwealth Games in Kingston, Jamaica. It was later discovered Ed had one leg shorter than the other. Ed Skinner was a recipient of a national award, the Hummingbird Silver Medal, and was inducted into this country's Hall of Fame. Ed Skinner is truly a sporting icon of this Twin Island state. Okay, let me just. Okay, we ready now, Mr. Skinner? You ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right then. Okay, so let me just set the scene for you, so you get you in the right mood. We are talking about that historic world record run that you missed out on, not because of you wanted to leave, but on unforeseen circumstances. So let's talk a little about what brought about that entire scenario and how you felt to be out of that scenario.
Well, if I go back and I can reflect, though that was the 1968 Commonwealth Games, of course, which was held in Jamaica. Um, I, I I did everything to get myself in the best of shape. In fact, I was training with Ed Roberts and Ken Bernard in New York that summer. So we were in very good shape. And when we got to Jamaica, this doing my last warm up, it was just the irony. This I said, let me do my last 100 meters workout before of course, it was the day before the 400 meters heats. I felt a slight strain on my muscle. I was a bit concerned, but then I can't remember how I treated it, iced or whatnot, but I made the decision to run the first round. And after I ran the first round, I believe I either won the race, I have to check the records, or came in second, but I was in pain. I had to slow up in the last 20 meters or so. So afterwards, I informed the team management, and they sent me to the sports center in Jamaica, where they looked at my leg and whatnot. And they said, okay, they will do some treatment of it before and see how I feel. But but I made a decision, tell management, I don't think I'll run the rest. I can make it in the heats and then also run the relay, make it in the finals and run the relays. So because I had semifinals to run, I would have finals to run and then the relay semifinals. So I said I'll try and rest my legs. But I think the day before, so I did not run in any more of the heats in the 400 meters. So I think about 2 days before they looked at my leg, I was still in some pain, not much of a pain, but they made it, the Jamaican physios and the doctor said, well, we can give you an injection, which of course will dull the pain. You won't feel the pain, but the chances are you may damage your leg a lot more, the muscle. So I made a decision, no, I will not run. And inform management. In fact, so they had to meet and talk about getting a substitute for me, and it was between Benedict Cayenne and Lennox Yerwood. The decision was Lennox Yerwood because he had done, I think, quite well. Both of them did well in the 800 meters. I can't remember the detail, but the decision was to have Lennox Yerwood run. So that is what took place. And so I had, and of course, the rest is history. Where you saw they broke the world record. Lennox Yerwood did his job, and they celebrated in front of Jamaica, which was it was very because I think before that in the CSC games that they had in Jamaica, I think a couple of years before, I know Ed Roberts, I think, was beaten by George Kerr and whatnot. So he said he got his revenge. He ran a beautiful race. So I was in the stands, excited for them, happy for them, but so of course, wish it could have been me. But of course, at the end of the day, Trinidad and Tobago was able to set a world records, and it was a beautiful experience, and um, it bonded us a lot more together since. As you know, we have been together since 1966, all five of us, and we have had a lot of reunions, and I've had beautiful memories talking about our track and field history.
Okay, Mr. Eskinen, I think that you captured, you recorded quite well, and I think you handled it beautifully. A true patriot and a man who is committed to the development of athletics in TNT. So thank you so much for the opportunity once again, and I do hope that when this documentary is out, it will really reflect how what you guys think and felt at the time. So thanks again for the opportunity. Thank you so much. I'm talking with two of the big men of Olympics. When you talk about track and field in this country, you cannot leave with the name of Ed Skinner and Ken Bernard. These men they have worked hard in the vineyard, and they have reaped the reward. They have brought glory and honor to this country. And I have two of the best. There are others behind you are coming, but let's talk a little of Ed Skinner. Ed, I mean, you started off from humble beginnings, but you were pushed on by your parents. I mean, how important it is to have parental support in track and field?
Well, parental support is important in all phases of your life. And I can say that I was blessed to have good parenting. So I was blessed with that, and it's because of that I'm here today, that I was able to develop my God-given talent, and also fortunate because, as I say in life, it's both nature and nurture. I was blessed to run fast, but very importantly, I was nurtured by my parents, by the village of St. James just down the road. And so I consider myself fortunate and blessed.
I mean, when we look at your career, you came to the ranks, you could say, and you showed potential all the way up. But there were times during your career that you wanted to walk away from the sport. Tell us why sometimes.
Well, yes, as I said, like in 1960, I can go back to 1952, I believe, when there was the Coronation Sports, which is similar to the National Primary School Games, and I was the primary school champion. So, of course, I did it without any formal training, just running all over the place. And my parents recognized how talented I was, especially my father and other people, but I myself just considered it fun. And later on, I did go on to QRC, where I had a mixed career, because I would not go into the history of that, because it was a mixed career. It's only in my last year at QRC I did very well. But for 2 years I did not even run track and field at QRC. And it's after I left QRC I made, because of Wendell and whatnot, said, Ed, you should do everything to develop your talent and whatnot. And I made a decision. I joined the Dukie School of Athletics.
Right, Manny Dukie.
Yeah, Manny Dukie School of Athletics. And of course, he himself has a great history behind him.
Correct.
And it was there that I developed, and within 2 years, I became the national champion in the 200 and 400 meters, setting national records. So, yes, and from then on, thank God, I got a scholarship at the University of Maryland State to be exact, and it's there where I further developed my talent and had a very, exciting life. And of course, the peak of it was running at the Olympic Games.
Let's talk a little. I mean, let's fast forward a little and speak about the Olympic Games, because that is where you all picked up the bronze medal. I mean, let's talk about that race, because I read in the book by Dr. Basil Ince, when you were getting onto the starting gates or the starting blocks, there was a fascinating story there, but that was for the individual game event. But let's talk a little about the order in which you all ran. Was that you started off?
That's correct.
Yeah, you handed it to Ken Bernard.
Yes.
Ken handed it to Ed Roberts, and Roberts handed it to the prince, as they say.
Yes,
yeah. Let's talk a little about that race. After the race, how you felt? I mean, before and after the race.
Well, I can tell you, after the race, there was a slight disappointment because we were hoping to win the gold medal, but that was very fleeting. And then we realized, hey, we did win a medal, and all of us, we were very elated. And over the years, we have been able to reflect about the race. We have seen the race, fortunately, over and over. I think it's on YouTube. And we have analyzed the race of where, what could have been in certain cases. I think the key in the race was this first leg, I came in. I brought the battle in about the same time with the U.S. and Great Britain. Kent ran a tremendous leg against Mike Larrabee. In fact, can you tell me more about that leg? Why he ran so tremendously in the relay leg and not and he got to the semi-finals, which where in fact I have a nice picture of Kent and myself in the semi-finals. Yes, yes. Of course, Kent came in. I can't remember what he came in, but I happened to get third place and made it to the finals.
Yes.
But even after I made it to the finals and ran in eighth, I was very depressed because it was the first time I ever ran last in a race, and I was extremely depressed. And thanks to my friends Edwin, Kent, and Wendell, they said, "Hey, listen, you are the eighth best in the world." Although I didn't want to hear that, but they said you're eighth best, and we still have a medal to win, which was in the relay.
Exactly.
And you say, get yourself ready for the relay, and that's exactly what I did. And thanks to their help for getting me, ready to go again. And in the first leg, I did what we were supposed to do. Of course, we had a plan to get the gold medal.
Yes.
But it did not work out as is. And when Kent got the baton handed over to Ed Roberts, Ken cannot analyze Ed Roberts' leg, and then of course that exchange between Ed Roberts and Wendell, that is where, Kent will talk more about that, what happened.
Okay, but let me just ask you this one more question before I wrap things up with you. Because you seem throughout your career, you always had muscle problems. You thought maybe if you had a better physio or maybe worked on your legs and your muscles, you might have been able to prolong your career and be better than that you really were.
Yes, in fact, and a lot of things happen for a reason. Now I know what had happened to me.
Yes.
I can, and I spend a lot of my time coaching.
Yes.
I retired recently. I'm very proud to say I've coached the Memphis Pioneers. We have been the champion club for 20 years non-stop. So, but I have been able to learn from those things. Of course, we didn't have the sports science that they have today. I found out later on in life that I had one leg was slightly shorter than the other. And that that contributed to my injuries and whatnot. If we had known that, I could have done take care of that. And of course the weight training, if I had done weight training to strengthen my muscles and whatnot, all that would have made a difference. But what happened, I am now passing that on to the athletes that we coach. So you see, where out of some negativity, you see positive things can happen. And that is what has happened in my life. Those sort of temporary setbacks, I learned from it and I have passed it on to the kids.
Okay,
yes.
So Skinner, thank you so much. We'll come back to you sometime, but let's just bring your partner into it. Looking back at Kent Bernard's running career, one can easily say football's loss turned out to be athletics' gain. Kent Bernard, or KB, as he's called by his friends, displayed a tremendous turn of speed on the football field, playing as a centre forward or as a right winger. Kent Bernard, though, was persuaded by the coach of Burnley Track Club, George Clark, and his mother to channel his God-given talent to a much more profitable discipline, which turned out to be athletics. It was a very good decision, as Kent Bernard made maximum use of his potential. Kent Bernard won the Victor Lodorium title on 2 occasions, representing Belmont Boys Intermediate, and in so doing defeated one of the well-established runners in his age group, Edwin Roberts, who represented Tranquility. Kent Bernard went on to gain a scholarship to Michigan State University. While there, Kent Bernard renewed his acquaintance with his old foe, Ed Roberts, and also teamed up with another Ed Skinner. These three, along with Wendell Motley, picked up the bronze medal in the 4x400 meters relay event at the 1964 Tokyo Olympic Games in Japan. Kent Bernard ran the second leg, having received the baton from Ed Skinner on the first. Bernard handed it to Ed Roberts, who delivered it to Wendell Motley. The rest is now history. 2 years later, at the Commonwealth Games in Kingston, Jamaica, Kent Bernard was part of the record-breaking run in the 4x400 meters relay event. The lead-off man on that occasion was Lennox Yearwood, with Kent Bernard on the second, Edwin Roberts on the third, and Wendell Motley on the fourth and final leg. Ken Bernard, as his good friend Ed Skinner, was inducted into this country's Hall of Fame. A true trainee to the bone, Ken Bernard, now in retirement, returns each year for this country's greatest show on planet Earth, the Carnival festivities. Ken Bernard, okay, Ken, I mean, you're a carnival person. You came home for carnival. Let's say, well, how much carnival is in your DNA?
How much? I think it was from birth because my father was a band leader. He brought out a couple bands and stuff. So from young, I was around the thing. Although I didn't. In those days, kids were not allowed to play mass and that kind of stuff. And that's it. And then in my teen years, I learned to play pan, and of course during those years too, you had the stigma connected with pan playing. I had to hide and play and all this kind of stuff.
What pan do you play? The tenor, the bass? What pan do you play?
Well, actually, I learned to play all the pans.
Oh, I mean, you're all wrong there.
I learned to play all the pans. It was something that I had a passion for, and I liked the sound and everything.
Right.
And
Yes.
now they call them the panjambi. I'm a panjambi.
But Ken, let's talk a little. I mean, what you talk about this chess carnival? Because you come here regularly. Well, very briefly, what you talk about this chess carnival?
Well, it was not as enjoyable for me personally because I didn't play. I have problems with my knees, and although I tested them and so on, and I realized that, hey, I'm gonna rest. And but I enjoyed Panorama. I enjoyed going to the pan yards and stuff. I enjoyed Juve.
Okay.
And so as long as there is pan music, I'm good.
Okay. And you enjoy yourself that way. You enjoy yourself. Now let's talk about what we really brought you here for. Talk about the Olympics, your track career. I mean, I also found out that you love football. What made you make that change your love from football to track? Very briefly.
Yeah. Well, I consider myself as a soccer player, as a football player, as such. I ran track. I ran school sports. I had no idea that I had that kind of potential as such. The school sports that really turned it for me is when Belmont Intermediate ran against Tranquility, and I happened to beat Edwin Roberts, both in 100 and 200. And then, I was labeled the new find. I still wasn't convinced as such, and I didn't run after that. Although there was a club that was after me.
Right, I see.
So I said, well, let me give it a shot because. Soccer, although at that time I didn't know soccer was going nowhere, and such, So, right, football. So I joined the club, but yet still I wasn't convinced because I ran in meets, and it's not something I should be boasting about, but I didn't train. I trained on the soccer field. I running down a football.
Again, for time reasons, let's fast forward a little and talk about your experience at the Olympic Games, where you brought home that bronze medal. I mean, just tell us very briefly about your experience. I mean, you running the second leg. I mean, what was going through your mind when you got the battle from your friend Ed Skinner?
Well, I tell you, there has to be a preamble because in 1964, I was one of the quarter milers in the world. Except that Olympics were held in October.
Yeah.
My college season ended in June, July. I didn't hear from the Trinidad people whether they were going to send a team in October, so I stopped training. When I did hear, it was too late, so I was really out of shape. I was really out of shape when the relay came. Well, when my specialty came around, you know, of course I was worried and stuff, but I gave it a shot, and I actually ran myself into shape in Tokyo. The earlier rounds and stuff. I caught up with me in the semifinal. When I finished, in retrospect, had I had the kind of conditioning that I had in June, I would have made the final. There's no doubt about that. And by the time the relay came around, I was now feeling well. I was feeling my old self. And, you know, it showed because, you know, I ran fast.
45 something you ran?
I ran 45.3.
45.3?
Yeah.
Tremendous race.
I ran 45.3. And, you know, I was 21 years old. I was happy. I was happy to be there, you know.
I must ask you about this one. This one, I mean, when Ed handed it to Wendell, I mean, there was an incident that took place that many the world over saw that Trinidad was given a raw, I mean, had it even harder.
Yeah.
I mean, had that didn't take place, you would have been in line. The medical would have been different.
The outcome would have been different in my estimation. But you know, these things happen when it's a hotly contested race, as such. You know, hotly contested race, especially at the exchange zones and stuff. So you know, I mean, it's something that comes with the territory. Euless Williams from the U.S. fell in front of Wendell. He had to go around him. And, you know, guys ain't waiting for somebody to get up, you know, they ran around him, they ran over him, you know. And, you know, Wendell exerted a lot of energy getting it wrong and then going after Henry Carr, who was anchoring the U.S. team. And we were second up until 2 meters from the finish. Yeah, or less than 2 meters. And Robbie Brightwell just threw himself. And but just being in the middle, Hunt was satisfying.
So Ken Bernal, it's a good way to end our interview with you on a high note, because you just being in the medal hunt has been a very, very good one, and it has been good for this country and for you guys.
The 4x400 meters relay for men, and in this Great Britain, unlucky again, drawn the outside lane. The mighty Americans are in lane 2, Trinidad and Tobago lane 4, and Jamaica lane 3, and these are Britain's main rivals for the medals. Tim Graham, the lead-off man, running a very good first leg right on the outside. Pace judgment, all important for Graham. Can't afford to go too fast, but he's no one to judge his pace by. Also going well there in lane 7 is Philip Hook of Poland. The Americans not making a great deal of impression yet as they come into the straight, and it looks to me as if Graham's run a beauty. Tim Graham from Polytechnic Harriers right away on the outside. Don't forget this is a bit deceptive because the first 440 yards, 400 meters run in lanes, and the next 122, so Britain's lead may not be as great when Metcalf breaks in the back straight as it may appear at the moment. And the Americans worked a big switch here. They put Larrabee, the Olympic champion, in on the second leg. He usually runs the third, and Larrabee cutting them down now on the inside. They can break now. And Metcalf coming across, Larrabee trying to hold the inside. Trinidad and Tobago next, Jamaica the rest, and the rest nowhere. It's Britain in front, a storming leg there by Metcalf. He's run right across, he's 5 yards in front of the Olympic champion and going further away. Britain leads, Larrabee America next, then Trinidad. Larrabee really putting it in there and cutting it back on Metcalf, and it's beginning to hurt Metcalf. Metcalf flying up, he's suffering, and Larrabee comes away from America. Metcalf really in trouble now. He's run hard, but he's paying the penalty then. Trinidad next, Great Britain next, Jamaica next. John Cooper now in third place for Britain. Out in front, Eunice Williams, America. Then Ed Roberts of Trinidad. Then Cooper, Britain. Then Mel Spence, Jamaica. These four have in between them. This is the race for the gold, silver, and bronze. Trinidad up on Eunice Williams there. Ed Roberts trying to take him on the outside, and Williams won't give way. What a race. What a battle. Stride for stride. Into the bend. And Roberts will have to give way. It's America in front. And Cooper now has lost third place. It's Jamaica in third place. America lead. Trinidad next. Then Jamaica. And Cooper fighting with all the strength he's got, and that's considerable. And Cooper coming on the outside now. America first. Trinidad next. Then Jamaica. And then Britain. And the last leg coming up. Henry Carr goes away as Williams crashes down. Small lead for America. Wendell Motley now for Trinidad in third place. George Carr to make an extra. Robbie Brightwell 5-6 yards adrift. And Brightwell not making any impression. America, Jamaica, and Trinidad now through on the outside. So one of the best races we've had so far. Look at Henry Carr in front. And Brightwell now 5 yards back against the world's best. It's America in front, Trinidad next, Jamaica next, and Brightwell still making no move. Can he do it? Can he get back after that shock defeat in the 400 meters? Carr's there. And Brightwell is coming on the outside. He took a bad bump there from Carr. America are going to win it. Here's Brightwell now in the bronze medal position. And he could get the silver. And Brightwell's going to do it. It's Brightwell second for Britain. And no wonder he fell. No wonder he went down. A new world record for the Americans that we made the British team also inside the world record. The silver medal. Yet another superb run by the British athletes who are running way, way, way above themselves. The Americans anchored by the great Henry Carr. As I've said so often, one of the most pleasing sights in action on the track today. Eunice Williams in the glasses, Olin Castle just out of shot, Mike Larrabee in the centre. A new world record for America. Medals presented, the bronze medals for the Trinidadians. Britain to receive theirs in second place. The times confirmed. The first three all broke the existing world record. The reigning champion. You're watching a man making Olympic history. This man is Ethiopian, unknown in Rome.
And now the line-up for the men's 400-metre final.
Britain's captain, Robbie Brightwell, had been tipped for gold. The commentator, working from London, was Norris McWhirter.
Well, there comes Brightwell. Brightwell going strong in. Larrabee coming up inside Brightwell. The bespectacled Larrabee coming up inside, and he's way past. And it's Brightwell there, and Motley and Badensky of Poland coming through on the inside, but it's Larrabee, and it's Larrabee. Larrabee of the United States first, Motley second, Badensky was third, and Robbie Brightwell of Great Britain fourth.
Superb athletes achieved great things in the Tokyo Games. Some winners were surprising, like the little-known American who stole the 10,000 metres.
About 120 yards left. Gamuni leads and Clark's catching him. What a finish to 6.25 miles. What a finish to an Olympic race. And what a mix-up as they crash the leading runners. And here comes Clark. The Tunisian goes again. The Tunisian 6.15. Clark nearest the camera. And Clark's had it. And here comes Mills. And Mills is going to do it. What a race. And what a run. Bill Mills wins. The Tunisian second and the Australian.
Lennox Yearwood comes from the only chartered borough in the Caribbean, the Arima Borough. It is a small town which produced the likes of former West Indies Test cricketers Larry Gomes and Phil Simmons, who went on to become West Indies men's senior team coach. Outstanding sprinters in Charlie Joseph and Ainsley Armstrong, female sprinter Laura Pierre, and world-class quarter-miler Mike Paul. The 800 meters was one of the two distances Lennox Yearwood competed in. It is a race in which sprinting and stamina are the main ingredients. Therefore, many shy away from this grueling event. but Yearwood made it one of his specialties. Yearwood's opportunity came in 1966 at the Commonwealth Games in Kingston, Jamaica, where he replaced the injured Ed Skinner on the first leg of the 4x4 100 meters relay team. Yearwood grabbed the opportunity with both hands and ran an excellent first leg, handing over the baton to Ken Bernard, the 6-footer who continued the momentum and speed. Bernard passed it on to Ed Roberts, and Wendell Motley on the anchor leg saw the quartet achieve a world record-breaking time of 3 minutes 02.08 seconds. Yearwood also had the distinction of being part of the relay squad, which picked up the silver medal at the 1966 CSC Games. The runners there on that occasion were Ed Skinner, Benedict Cayenne, and Edwin Roberts. Although Lennox Yearwood did not compete much for Trinidad and Tobago, as his compatriots did, but he's considered an outstanding athlete who made his contribution to development and promotion of athletics in the land of his birth. I'm speaking with one of the legends of track and field in this country. I would like him to introduce himself, to tell you his full governmental name, and then we start his interview.
Lennox Yearwood.
Lennox Yearwood is a name that ricochets around this country, that conjures up success, and it conjures up track and field. How you got started in track and field, very briefly? How you started running?
Very briefly, I'm a Remian, born in Arima, and I played soccer as a teenager. Fulham was the club. And in Fulham, one of my peers told me that since I run so fast in soccer, I can just run track. And I just decided to take his advice.
One thing I noticed with all of you all, that you all always were involved in other disciplines than track.
Right.
Football, Ken was in football, you also in football,
right.
Ed did track, and Wendell did everything.
Right.
I mean, so is that a trend during your era that you took part in everything?
Yeah, and I think what happened at that time, your peers would actually identify your talents. And your peers would tell you, well, look, you know, as in my case, they said, look, go ahead and run track. We just play soccer for a whole year and we win a trophy. You could run track one race and win the same trophy. And logically, I took that as a guide to get into track. And I think that is a good way of looking at that time. Peers influence you as to things you could do in addition to the things that you're doing with them.
Right, because you come from Arima, and Arima seem to have always produced top-class athletes. Men like Lennox Yearwood, men like Ainsley Armstrong, men like Charlie Joseph. I mean, all these fellas, Laura Pierre came from Arima. What is there in Arima that really inspired you all?
Well, I would say the Arima energy.
I like that.
The Arima energy in terms of representing Arima as a small part of Trinidad. So I think there is a sort of a energy and belief system. So we had coaches from Arima, and the coaches would give us different advice as to our potentials, and we just took it.
All right, okay, no, so let's fast forward a little now. And you mentioned when you came on set with me that had it not for you, that world record run will not have been coming. Take us back a little to how it got started from the first leg to the fourth leg.
Well, very interestingly, I am not a quarter miler, and it's a mile relay. And they included me as the lead-off leg. I was a half miler. But because I ran so fast in the half mile, my best half mile was 1 minute 45 seconds. And I would do like 48 seconds for the first half mile. So they said I would start the relay, given my ability and my stamina, to bring it in. And I actually did just that. I brought it in to Ken Bernard, who took it from there to Edwin, and Wendell Motley did the final leg.
So you give the second man the handover,
right.
some breathing space to really take this to a world record run.
Absolutely. And we weren't thinking world record. We were thinking winning a gold medal.
Okay.
And in that effort, the world record came, and we appreciate that in fact we put Trinidad on the map. A lot of people don't even know about Trinidad. In some cases, you go places in the United States and they say, where's Trinidad? Do they have snow there? That kinds of things. So I think the idea that we, from such a small country, we were able to put together such a team, that was an accomplishment based on the population size.
Were you think that you were blessed to have teammates as Motley, Roberts, and Skinner? I mean, to really bring glory to this country?
Right. So the relay is Ken Bernard, Roberts, Motley, and myself. Okay. Skinner ran in the Tokyo Olympics with them. Yeah. Well, I believe it was almost like a fraternity, because even though we ran way back when, we are still close today. So we were close before, so maybe that has something to do with it. We were not running a team that was just a relay team of Trinidad. We were running a team that had some relationship to each other. So there was some obligation for me to, when I knew what I had to do, handing over the stick to Kent was a major responsibility, so he would not be put back in terms of his leg to Roberts and Roberts to Wendell.
So Lennox Yearwood is, at the wrap up this interview now, looking back at your years in track and field, would you have done anything else but track?
Well, that is a great question. I'm not sure there were many options. I came from a family that were not able to give a lot. And I had to find ways to expand outside of the norm, and I've always wanted to be someone outside of normalcy. And looking back, that record and my athletics paved the way for who I am today. What I did after, I used the same methodology into education. I got a doctorate in psychology from Buffalo. I got a law degree from Howard University, and now I'm teaching as a lecturer at Howard. So all of these things have made me my beginning.
I see. So you have preempted my last question, because I was going to ask you what you're doing now, but you already answered that.
Already answered.
Yes, sir. So Mr. Lennox Yearwood, it's a pleasure speaking with you, and I hope that God will bless you with long life and continued success.
Thank you, and thank you for this opportunity, because it is sometimes so, you don't know how grateful we are when someone calls us to be appreciated of what we do. So the idea that you have done it, we thank you very much for it.
Last track event of these 8th Commonwealth Games. The 4x440 yards relay. On the inside will be Nigeria, in lane 2, Uganda, lane 3, Jamaica, lane 4, England, lane 5, Canada, lane 6, Australia, lane 7, Trinidad, the favourites, and on the outside in lane 8, Barbados. Everyone absolutely still. Away they go, and Trinidad the team to watch out there in lane 7. Their lead-off man is Yearwood, who reached the half-mile final, but Eddie of Australia going off very quickly, and on the outside the Barbados runner has gone off, I would say, too fast at this stage. But Jamaica closing right up now in lane 3. It's Forbes for Jamaica, who must be in a very, very long lead indeed. He's run a tremendous 2:20, and he must pay the penalty when they come into the straight, but the crowd will try and carry him home. The Jamaicans are clearly going to be leading. Going well on the outside, Barbados. Trinidad are closing up all the time. Canada are there, and Will Bolt Lewis coming for England. But it's Jamaica there in lane 2. Forbes suffering, and Trinidad coming through. Canada there too, and England there as well. These are a bit deceptive at the moment, because the next 120 yards of the second leg has to be run in lanes, and we won't really know the position until they break on the far side. Australia a terrible change. Canada going extremely well. The Trinidadians didn't change too well, and it's Jamaica. Jamaica will lead now as they go to Blake now. Jamaica lead. Canada second. England third. Trinidad closing fourth. So that's the order. Jamaica in front, Canada second, England third, and up go Trinidad now into third place. This is Bernard for Trinidad, closing all the time. The leader for Jamaica is Khan, and what a lift they're getting from the crowd. Jamaica lead, Trinidad second, England third, Canada fourth. A good leg there by John Eadie for England. So it's Jamaica now, George Carr for Jamaica, Ed Roberts for Trinidad, Peter Warden for England, Don Domansky for Canada. The medals between these countries. Jamaica in front through the great George Carr. Ed Roberts for Trinidad tracking him. Then little Peter Warden for England and Canada fourth. And a fair old battle going on up front. Jamaica still hanging on. Ed Roberts in second place for Trinidad. This crowd in uproar, and here comes Roberts for Trinidad, and he's got George Carr. Magnificent leg there for Trinidad by Ed Roberts, and next to go the great Wendell Motley. Motley goes off, and Canada have come into second place. It's Bill Crothers for Canada, Jamaica third, and England fourth. And watch Motley go. Motley leading for Trinidad. Crothers for Canada. Then Jamaica, and then England. 220 yards left. This is the man who won the individual 440 yards at a new record of 45.2. And Crothers is making a tremendous effort to hold him, but he's got no chance at all. Wendell Motley brings Trinidad home in front. A great leg for England by Tim Graham, who may catch the Jamaican. What a race by Tim Graham. It's Trinidad first, Canada second, and England are going to take the bronze. Oh, a superb leg by Tim Graham. Well, he did everything that Brightwell did for Britain in Tokyo. Graham did it here for England tonight. Trinidad take the gold medal, Canada take the silver, and a really great run by Tim Graham on the last leg for England. Gets England the bronze, and a new world record for Trinidad and Tobago. The unofficial time slashes the world record apart. There are the four Trinidadians with the English quartet alongside them. They don't know yet they've broken the world record, but they must have broken it. We made their time 3 minutes 2.7 seconds against the listed world record of 3 minutes 4.5. So not only have those boys got the gold medals, they've also got the world record. That is beyond doubt. A magnificent run by the English quartet there, who must have been very, very close indeed to breaking the listed world record as well.
Edwin Anthony Roberts was born on August 12, 1941, the third in a family of 2 boys and 2 girls. He grew up in Belmont, Port of Spain, near to the Queen's Park Savannah, a household name and a training ground for young and upcoming athletes. Having attended primary and secondary schools in Trinidad, he enrolled at North Carolina State College on scholarship in February 1963, where he ran the 100 meters, 200 meters, and 400 meters. At the 1964 Tokyo Olympics, competing in the 200 meters final, he was the first track and field athlete to win an Olympic medal for Trinidad and Tobago, and the first Trinbagonian to win an Olympic medal for an independent Trinidad and Tobago. At the same Tokyo Games, he was a member of the 4x400 meters relay that won bronze. At the 1966 British Empire and Commonwealth Games in Jamaica, he won bronze in the 100 yards, silver in the 220 yards, and was a member of the 4x440 yards relay that won gold in world record time. Edwin Roberts represented Trinidad and Tobago with distinction between 1962 to 1972. Among his many awards, in 1969 he was awarded the Trinidad and Tobago Hummingbird Medal Bronze. In 1984 he was inducted into the Alex M. Rivera Athletics Hall of Fame at North Carolina Central University. And in 1987 he was inducted into the TNT Sports Hall of Fame. We have one of the legends of track and field in the 60s and 70s, Mr. Edwin A. Roberts. Welcome to ITV Sports Train. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Can't complain. It's great to be here. Nice sunny weather with a nice breeze here on St. Mary's grounds.
Yes, man. So let's go briefly about, your success in track and field, the 1961 200-meter sprint, and the bronze in the 4x400 relay at the Tokyo Olympics. Relive that quickly for us.
Well, back then in 1964, like I said, I was very young, and I went out there, was enthusiastic to get a medal in the 200 meters. When I went out there to compete, I was a little nervous, which is normal for any athlete or anyone. If you're not nervous, something is wrong.
Right.
So I went out there and get into the blocks. I was in lane 8, and then when I got out and I hit the curve, I saw Henry Carr and Paul Drayton was ahead of me, and then I started to pick it up, and I ended up third, and I was very happy and proud. The man that gets second, he wasn't pleased, but I said to myself he should be very thankful, which with Paul Drayton.
Right.
I am the only survivor of that relay that 200 meter,
yes.
because Henry Carr has passed away and Paul Drayton is also passed away.
Excellent. Let's talk about growing up in Belmont. Attended Rosary Boys, losing your parents at an early age. How were you able to, who were the individuals that supported you and give you that, that boost to enter into track and field?
I would say the younger ones from Belmont Intermediate, which was Fitziness and Busby, all these guys that passed away, and I always had a goal, a strive from young, and I used to go to the Savannah every day with the 5 furlong on the sand track and practice with the Hampton boys. George Hernandez was the coach, and I just kept on pushing. Rain, sunshine, I was always in the Savannah, whether it's a carnival, whether it's a Easter, whatever it is, I was always there, enthusiastic about being a top man for my country.
Great. One of the benchmarks, or people don't realize is the 1968 200-meter final, of which you were 4th. You were there in terms of appearing for the American Civil Rights Movement. Tell us about that.
Okay, during that period of the time, John Carlos and Tommy Smith, which are very close to them, we are still very close friends, came to me and said, they called me back and they called me Latin Louis. Up to now they call me Latin Louis. They said, look, we have a gloves for you. And I said, okay. And we went out there. I was in lane 8, just like I was in lane 8 in 1964.
Right.
So I get it twice in a row. And as in lane 8, I know I had to run. When I came off the curve, I was leading. I was in first gear. I was in first gear. When I get going to second, those guys was just into first. I went into third gear, they were in second. And third gear, well, I had no more gears after that, the fourth gear. So I end up being 4th, which, I can't have any qualms about it. I think back then, if I had really placed into the 3rd place, I might have to make a decision.
Right.
And the decision is whether to put my fist up or not to put my fist up.
Yes.
And I didn't have to, so I didn't have to worry about it, because right after that, also, I went to Brazil. Brazil, because the Cubans wanted me to come to Cuba to run.
Right.
And I didn't. I was thinking whether or not I should go to Cuba. And America at the time was in war with Cuba.
Yes.
So I ended up going to Brazil to run that time in 68. Then I came to Trinidad.
Yes. Well, great. What a fantastic career, ladies and gentlemen. Now you've been living in Pennsylvania for quite a number of years. Tell us how you occupy yourself in Pennsylvania.
Well, I occupy myself. I retired from teaching and coaching. I am retired. I work with my association is the Middle Atlantic Association, which is attached to the USATF.
Right.
I'm also a member of the USATF Alumni Association. I'm on the board, the treasurer of the board, Alumni Association, for all all the Olympians, U.S. Olympians.
Yes.
We just had a reunion in the Bahamas.
Right.
So every year they're going to have that. I've on the board for 2 years now, going in. My term is up in 2025.
Okay.
So I don't know what's going to happen,
Good.
but you know, I'm still involved. I travel all over
Right.
with the U.S. For the nationals and different meets and so on and so forth.
Great. Well, finally, Ed, we would like to ask you, what is your message to the young athletes of Trinidad and Tobago?
The message to the young athletes or the young generation coming up, have a goal.
Yes.
Not only have a goal, make sure that you have your academics behind you. And track and field can take you a long way.
Right.
I would say the majority of them who don't really thinking where they want to go, they should go for track and field. There is more opportunity in
Yes.
track and field than in soccer.
Yeah.
Okay, because in track and field, you have people, they have 100, 200, 400 can get a scholarship. If you're 800 man, you can get a scholarship. If you're shot put, discus, javelin, heptathlon, pentathlon, high jump, long jump. So there's more opportunities for the youngsters here to get scholarship going that direction. I know some of the parents and them are concerned and put a whole emphasis on academics.
Right.
Academics is good,
Yes.
but still get your child involved in track and field. And if you get your child involved in track and field and he has a good SAT scores and he's good, there's no problem of him getting a scholarship at any university in America. I have gotten a scholarship for people at Princeton. I gotten a scholarship at Yale and different places in the United States. I had people at Grambling. I had people at North Carolina Central and different universities. So there's a lot of opportunity. And the person behind that, not only I work with Kent and myself. We work with a lot of the people, athletes here, see if they want. A matter of fact, there's one girl right now, which is from Skinner's Cub. She is in the States and she's going to school, and I'm working with her to get a scholarship in one of the universities.
Excellent. Mr. Edwin Roberts, legend of the athletic world. We want to thank you so much and all the best to you, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and God bless, and hoping that the Trinidad and Tobago team and the schools and the universities here can start building track, not only for the athletes, but get coaches in all of these schools, and we'll have a better track team in the country.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Wendell Adrian Motley was born on July the 2nd, 1941. He grew up in Woodbrook, Port of Spain, the youngest of four brothers who were all runners. A past student of Queen's Royal College, Port of Spain during the mid to late 1950s, he excelled at track and field and academics at Yale University in Connecticut, USA, and thereafter Cambridge University in England during the 1960s. Representing Trinidad and Tobago at the 1964 Olympic Games in Tokyo, Japan, he won silver in the 400 meters final and bronze in the 4x400 yards relay. More success came at the 1966 British Empire and Commonwealth Games in Jamaica, in which he won the gold medal in the 440-yard sprint and ran the anchor leg of the 4x440 yards relay, winning another gold medal in world record time. After retiring from track and field in the late 1960s, he distinguished himself in the world of business and politics. During the 1980s and 1990s, he held various ministerial portfolios in the government of Trinidad and Tobago. On November the 1st, 2018, he received the Order of Trinidad and Tobago for his contribution to national development and public service.
We're here at St. Mary's College with the legendary Mr. Wendell Motley, 2018 Order of Trinidad and Tobago recipient, and of course double Olympic medalist at the 1964 Olympics. How are you, sir?
You have it down pat.
Must be very enjoyable to you to reunite with your teammates here today.
It always is. It always is. But we follow each other around. I mean, when they're in the States. And Ed has been, Ed Roberts, that is. He has a home in Philadelphia, and he's always been welcoming the Trinidad delegations of athletes that come up there and so forth. So he's been kind of like the node.
Great man.
Yes.
Well, you know, we have to go back to that moment in track and field. I have the date here, 18th of October, 1964. All right, you know, your 400 meter, of course, second to Larrabee in the Olympic silver, and then, of course, the bronze relay, Skinner, Bernard, Roberts, Motley. In that order. Now, this was just after 2 years after independence. How did that feel for the country and for yourself?
It was important for the country, of course, but then in an international perspective, 1960s, that was before most of the African countries got their independence and so forth. So Trinidad, brand new out of independence, was a fresh country on the stage, international stage in Japan. And the Japanese, seeing this country small and contending with the Americans, the Japanese rooted for us. You cannot believe how outstanding the support that we got from Japan back in 1964.
Well, you know, we can't, of course, miss out on 1966. You know, the gold medal, of course, in the 400, and then again, you know, the world record 4x4. Relive those memories.
Well, it goes back to 1964 in the sense that we got bronze, we should have got silver, but we were in a contest with Jamaica. And in that contest, we had to run wide. So we said, let's take this back to Jamaica in front of a Jamaican crowd in 1966, and we are going to show the Jamaicans what a taste of revenge tastes like.
Well, you know, the Jamaicans cheered for you guys after that relay?
Well, they did. When we won, because Jamaica was in contention during the race. But then we came out and won, and there was a silence. But then once they announced that it was world record, we became the fans of all of Jamaica, and it was wonderful, that Caribbean unity feeling.
You went to Yale and then, of course, Cambridge in the field of economics. I mean, did excellently there. How were you able to balance your athletic career with your academic studies?
Well, I will tell you one thing. You could do two things, but not three. So I had to be very disciplined. The athletics and the academics, and forget all of the partying and all of those things. But it was a very good discipline. And I was fortunate too. I had some good colleagues. My roommate at Yale ultimately became my very good friend. He's now an emeritus professor in medicine at Yale. But then my coach, Bob Gigengak at Yale, was a very influential figure.
Was he U.S. Olympic coach also?
He ultimately became the U.S. Olympic coach.
Well, you know, I can't leave out, of course, your contribution to the economy and, of course, the business world of Trinidad and Tobago. You held about 3 or 4 ministerial portfolios from, I think, back in the 80s into the 90s. And then I think you had a stint with tourism, I believe, also. What would you say to us were your most challenging or rewarding times in the field of those ministerial portfolios?
Clearly, it was the Ministry of Finance. We had come through a very, very difficult time. The NAR government that preceded us faced very difficult economic circumstances, which we inherited. And Trinidad was in IMF negotiations, the Paris Club, etc. And we put together a plan to break out of that and to have it monitor that plan and ultimately to see it succeed. I will always remember the budget of, I think it was 1994. We're talking about hard times coming up all through the late 80s, through the early 90s. And in 1994, I was able to announce to the people that the Trinidad and Tobago economy had finally turned. And that moment on, we went into years and years of growth thereafter.
Well, we're coming down to the finalization of this video. Tell us what is occupying your time right now, or these days?
Well, family. Last year, I gave up everything. All of my business boards, the work that I was doing within the Ministry of Energy and so forth, with a degree of satisfaction that I could see that progress had been made and that Trinidad had hope, and that is all that I could ask.
And finally, what is your message to the young athletes of Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean as a whole?
Just what we said. It's a game of talent that you have and work and discipline, but you can't do everything. There's some sacrifice has to be involved, and it's up to you to learn that discipline and make the sacrifice early, and with good training, and especially staying away from injury. Staying away from injury. I always laugh. In my whole athletic career, I only had one moment of injury.
Really? Yes.
And that was too foolishly playing a game of frisbee on the campus at Yale.
Mr. Wendell Motley, thank you very much for this interview here at IETV. We want to certainly wish you all the best.
But I want to leave one thought with you.
Yes.
On this injury matter as well. And that's why I have this feeling of gratitude. Very early on in my career in Trinidad, I developed an injury when I was at QRC. And my father took me to every doctor, this, that, and they couldn't fix it. And ultimately, you know what he did? He said, Wendell, I have a friend. And he took me to the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. And there he introduced me to Mr. Ajuda Singh, who was a mystic masseur. He took me into the tea room of the Parliament, played with my toes. I could see all sorts of things jiggling in my knees. And at the end of that session, he said, Wendell, you're good. And that injury never recurred. And that gratitude, because who knows how my career would have turned out had I not had that intervention. So for me, Trinidad, its cultures, its different talents, it's different. This is a mystic masseur. Gratitude.
As the action continues down here at St. Mary's grounds, there is all kind of activities taking place. You can look at, there is activities of football, the finals of all the age groups taking place, and there is also people mulling around. There is also the award function in which they are all waiting on. The 5 legends of track and field, they are here and they will be honored today. As the chairman of this organizing committee, Ken Butcher, mentioned before, this is a day in which they are honoring the stars, they are honoring football, they are honoring everything that St. Mary's stands for. But we first look at everything that is taking place, and we take a break, and when we come back, we continue with our coverage. Okay, I'm speaking with National Senior Team Coach, Men's National Senior Team Coach, Angus Eve. Angus, I mean, it is a glorious day down here. You are enjoying yourself. Tell me what's about it.
Yeah, this is the first time Mokarapo actually got invited to the tournament, so we want to thank the organizers for having us. This is actually the launch of our old boys fraternity we're trying to do. Like most other schools, I was in Naparima, some of the guys like Hudson Charles and them were in Fatima, and they know how that, that the old boys can help the kids in the school now. So this is us really launching that initiative, playing in this tournament here today.
So you think that it was a little too long, or the timing was just right?
Well, God works in His own ways and His own time. So, but yeah, we should have done it before. But it's never too late, especially with what we're seeing, with the crime with the youths in the school and stuff. We thought that this was really important, because if you're looking back there, you'll see the likes of Hudson Charles, Russell Sutton, Dale Saunders, Russ Russell, Clint Marcel, all names that and all people who have contributed heavily to Trinidad and Tobago football. Captain of the strike squad, Clayton Morris, is also a part of it. So this is where we want to launch this and to really do our part in our neck of the woods.
One final question. I can't have you and not ask you about those 2 upcoming matches in Jamaica. How important are these 2 matches?
Extremely important for the local players to have that opportunity to play, because they don't get much match practice. We don't have a league. We're now going to get a league. Thank God for that. But still, the guys need to play at a high level so that they can be exposed, because international football and club football at the local scene is 2 massive difference.
Angus, thank you so much, and all the best with your new launch of your old boys. And I think that with you at the helm, and you're wrong, with all the guys with you, it will be successful.
Thank you.
check. No DJ Fluff. Fluff, you like yourself there. You can do Marshall, say like yourself. One fair. Like yourself. That's how it's going to be. Alright, in the meantime, we're at the final. In the over 55, the league is taking place. Tranquil versus Napsby. Napsby is in the white and blue. And Tranquil in the predominantly yellow and black. The other games. Bamboo is meant for holding up heavyweight. Hey. Ladies, already know what you're doing, eh? Ladies, I want to tell you all. You just know very well what you're doing. Men. St. Francis and Tranquil, you are wanted on field 2 now. O level is an advanced level. Hey.
For Trinidad closing all the time. The leader for Jamaica is Khan, and what a lift they're getting from the crowd. Jamaica lead, Trinidad second, England third, Canada fourth. A good leg there by John Eady for England. So it's Jamaica now, George Carr for Jamaica, Ed Roberts for Trinidad, Peter Warden for England, Don Domansky for Canada. The medals between these countries. Jamaica in front through the great George Carr. Ed Roberts for Trinidad tracking him. Then little Peter Warden for England and Canada fourth. And a fair old battle going on up front. Jamaica still hanging on. Ed Roberts in second place for Trinidad. This crowd in uproar. And here comes Roberts for Trinidad. And he's got George Carr. Magnificent leg there for Trinidad by Ed Roberts. And next to go, the great Wendell Motley. Motley goes off and Canada have come into second place. It's Bill Crothers for Canada, Jamaica third and England fourth. And watch Motley go. Motley leading for Trinidad. Crothers for Canada. Then Jamaica and then England. 220 yards left. This is the man who won the individual 440 yards and a new record of 45.2. And Crothers is making a tremendous effort to hold him, but he's got no chance at all. Wendell Motley brings Trinidad home in front. A great leg by Tim Graham, who may catch the Jamaican. What a race by Tim Graham. It's Trinidad first, Canada second, and England are going to take the bronze. Oh, a superb leg by Tim
1966.
Graham. Well, he did everything that Brightwell did for Britain in Tokyo. Graham did it here for England tonight.
Thank you very much. The audio.
Take the gold medal.
Visual excellence of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. George Commission, to assist us with the first distribution of awards. And to receive, and again, we want to credit Mr. Ken Butcher and the Intercol Nostalgia Football Festival Committee. So let's put our hands together for Mr. Ken Butcher and the entire committee for the fantastic work that they have done. And we just saw some individuals representing the red, white, and black with distinction. And they will now be once again acknowledged at this premier event. Please welcome the man who brought it home for us there in the 4x440 meters, Mr. Wendell Motley.
Come on, let's make some noise for Wendell Motley. Yeah. You see my partner shirt, boy? Cut in, you cut in. Man on top of the game with that, boy. Well done, Motley. Let's now welcome one of the team, Mr. Edwin Roberts. These fellas and them walking like they could go and run a next 4x4, 140 meters, boy. What is this? Strong as ever. No wonder. Welcome to Mr. Edwin Roberts again. Yeah. And if that Edwin wasn't enough, we have an next Edwin. Mr. Edwin Skinner. Yeah. The man with one of the smartest smiles in the business. Yeah. Congratulations to Mr. Edwin Skinner there. Let's continue with a round of applause as we bring now on stage to receive his much-deserved plaque, Mr. Kent Bernard. And remember, a relay team is really, while on the track is 4, but you also have to recognize the contribution of the 5th person, which has, in this case, performed remarkably well, Mr. Lennox Herwood. Thank you very much. So one more time for Mr. Wendell Motley, Mr. Edwin Roberts, Mr. Edwin Skinner, Mr. Ken Bernard, and Lennox. Here, well, thank you very much, Mr. George Commission. As we now warmly welcome the charming and amiable, affable President of the TTOC, the Trinidad and Olympic Committee, Ms. Diane Henderson, the President who will now assist us with this award. And we now welcome a distinguished figure in Trinidad and Tobago, in the CFU, Caribbean, in the region, and internationally. Former principal of St. Augustine Secondary School, the Green Machine, Mr. Osman Downer, better known as Ozzy or OD, bound to pass. The long and demand class, you're bound to pass. Well done. And we are very happy for Ken Butcher, Dr. Ken Butcher, Kenneth Butcher, and the committee for recognizing these individuals. The other person, unfortunately and regrettably, is not here today, and that's the chairman of the NCC, Mr. Winston Gypsy Peters, and his award will be forwarded to him. So thank you very much, Diane Henderson